Those two games were finished in a draw. You could assist the press conference. And as before, I was saying about, for example, some games which were moving very fast because the players were in time pressure. We were having some kind of, in the game which I'm going to show you now, it is Zagnitz Skripchenko. I was saying that Mr. Bronstein was saying a long time ago that two central pawns are worth more or less one piece. Of course, it is not always the same, and they were playing. There was one moment the position like this. Miss Zagnitz has made this move, but for some reason, Mrs. Skripchenko went knight to g6. Her normal square was to go to d6 with a knight, and this kind of endgames would have been, of course, much more in the favor of black, because now if something like this happens, knight goes here, this pawn goes up, let's say maybe even taking is good, but maybe not necessary. Maybe knight e4 immediately is a very strong move. And yes, it is somehow very difficult. This rook cannot move because this knight is hanging and so on. But Mrs. Skripchenko, you will see, she went completely on the wrong side with her knight. And after f4 move, she was obliged to go queen d6 to stop e5 coming. She could have played rook e8 also, of course. But then she was just, I don't know, yes, queen d4. She wasn't probably very aware much aware what was happening. But it would have been much better move rook e8 than queen d6. But still, more or less, the position remains into that. And then suddenly played knight g2, which was an interesting try, of course. Knight g2, then they were playing rook e8. Now Mrs. Skripchenko did place her rook to e8, and it was a time pressure also in this game, so it is very logical that they were playing knight d4, yes, but okay, so after knight g2, rook e8 happened, rook e1, rook e7. She had to defend this square on e5, definitely. And after rook, now white played h4, which was a good move. Happened king g8, I think. This was the position. And Mrs. Skripchenko still is controlling her position. She has allowed this h5, and now when the knight goes pawn to e5, it is clear that black's position is becoming now difficult. King g8, h5. Of course, she decided, yes, to come to... She decided actually to give her knight on g6, and she played move rook e8, and after taking on g6, after taking on g6, it is clear that that white is so much better with a clear pawn up. And I would say white is very close to score her first win in the tournament. Mrs. Zagnitz, she has a very strong position. I would say almost winning, but we have to wait and see before all of these games, before they are finished. We should know that they were playing knight h4, so you see it was not very accurate play by white for some reason, but she is still eventually winning, and she's still eventually winning, but so after queen e7 move, knight h4, queen a7, some king f2, queen d6 happened. Just black was supposed to stand without any chances to make some progress in a position, but I think it is becoming extremely difficult for her now. Queen d6, queen d3, king f8, something like this happened. Yes, they were maneuvering to get out of time pressure, and after queen c3 went, queen e7 went, of course, and now in this position rook happened to c7. She just went on the 7th rank. I think check happened on e2, king f1, and she eventually played this move, rook to a2, rook to e2, king f1, and she's probably going to play rook a. She did play eventually move rook queen e2, so it is quite logical that this has happened. I'm to come. This is a very solid threat, so it is still not clear if Miss Zagnitz will be able to win this game, because many things, strange things are happening in this position. Maybe she is misplaying it for some reason, because now second rank is very strong for white. I really don't know what she would do, but you will see that somehow, yes, everything turned around and doesn't become clear. Let's go back to another important game of today's round, which is Hu Yifan. I was saying that she was almost in a critical position, but she, I think due to her opponent's mistakes, she managed to come out of those difficulties, because something really strange has happened in this game. So in a position like you will see now that she is now almost winning, Mrs. Hu Yifan, because she has a very strong position. Her pieces are active, and it will be just almost over. Yes. In the game, Koneru, Muzychuk, white is still playing with a piece up. Now they are only not even one pawn, or not even two pawns like it was before. It is clear that white is winning, so Mariya Muzychuk will overstep, and now, yes, this is somehow very strange. What did Mrs. Zagnitz do? Because now they are playing endgame, which is going to be extremely. But let me come back to this position, because it was so difficult for black remained with the pawn up. They came to something like this after lots of play. I'm sure that white could have played much better, but she has allowed some unexpected moves, like this knight e4 was actually very smart. By the only way that she doesn't lose the game right away was that. But in my opinion, that position should have been lost for her. But okay, I'm going to come to this. I will show you what has happened before in this position. You will remember that it was the position like this in one moment. So after knight d6, after knight take d6, yes, there were yes, some possibilities. She could have maybe also played the bishop to f4 first, of course, and keep everything under pressure, because on d6 would come knight c8. I mean, yes, it would be... Okay, this really happened. So she took the queen, and after bishop f4, it was clear. Everything goes on. So after knight d6, she played knight e4 check immediately, which is correct move. Knight yes, and after f takes, now she was obliged to take. I'm wondering if in this position, if yes, this is just probably much better for white. White could have played maybe even instead of h4 move, maybe e5. She played this eventually this move. She stays with pawn down after this, because she was not very lucky that after this rook takes f4, pawn takes f4. There is a nice move as a g5 for black to get counter play on the white king, and that is the reason why it didn't work. So she had to go for g3 line after this, and then black just had time to go away with the queen. And yeah, of course, yeah, when king went to g2, then queen went to c6, and now white decided to sacrifice back after queen b6, rook b6, pawn takes, rook c3, threatening mate. Then it was forced to happen. Rook takes f4, takes on f4, rook to d8, which was very good, and rook to c2 to protect second rank. And now, of course, this is so much better position for black that it was really difficult. Actually, h5 happened in this position, and after king f2, king a7, and after king e3, rook d4 happened. So rook c3, and now they just maneuver and everything. And Mrs. Hu Yifan is coming to very strong position, what you have here on diagram, because after maneuvering with her king and coming to center, white was only supposed to wait, because there was nothing else to do. And there was nothing else to do, and yes, it was somehow king b8. Then she went to rook c3 back, king c7, rook c2, only waiting, king d6, rook c3. And I think now it was just, and then rook c3, actually, then bishop went to e6 back, rook went to c2, and now the move at b5 happened, and when pawn took on b5, and when the pawn took on b5, it is obvious that black is now having a strong grip. Rook plays d4, and after rook d2 check, she would probably go rook e7 simply, and then just win on a2 pawn, which would be probably enough to win the game. Okay, and in this position she played, what did she play? After queen d2, yes, she eventually played this, but bishop d5 was also a strong move, I must say. It was also a very good move, bishop d5. And after this, the game goes probably, will end up by a win of white, because f5 happened, took on f5, bishop takes h5, king comes to e5, and black's domination is such a huge that no chance to win it. Yeah, no chance to. So rook a2, a3 check is coming. King must go to f2, and now maybe just b6 move is enough to win. Every move is almost here, just winning for black. Yes. So it is somehow, yes, a little bit unfortunate. b6 move is definitely winning for Miss Hu Yifan, because there are no useful moves here. Bishop would take next move on a2, and then it means even more pressure to white, because white will have almost only one h pawn which is running, but it cannot go far away, because rook and bishop will close everything. So So the position in general is just lost. I think she will play b6 move. This is if there is some maybe, let's say, forced move in this position, as rook takes a2. Maybe this is just forcing a win. For this should be, in a way, if it's winning, it might be winning right away, because then this move must probably go back, or king e3. Probably king e3 is the right move. But after c4, probably bishop e2, c3, maybe b6. Yes, this is not so easy to win. So I don't think she needs really to exchange rooks. And there is no need to think about. Just play b6 move. You would take with the bishop on a2, and the game would be won. Simply won. Pawn to b6 is always good to stand, because pawn on b5 would be weak, and then again would be a win. Yes, she did play eventually b6 move, of course, as we expected. So it is going to be really difficult, very difficult. Now, after bishop e2, bishop will take a2, and this kind of endgame would always be winning. Bishop takes a2 eventually happened, yes, and this is, now just the moment of execution. It is difficult for white to do anything, and she has no lines, she has weak king, she has only h pawn is free, but this pawn is easily stopped on the march to possibly h8 square, if ever able to come, but very unlikely so far. Let's come back also to Mrs. Muzychuk, Mariya, and the game finished. The game will be finished very soon, in my opinion, because Miss Muzychuk is having so much of advantage. She has a knight, and yes, there is absolutely no even play, because her position is overwhelming. It is just a winning position for her. It is very difficult for black how to stop all the losses of all that position. So I wonder, she has to play king f5 in the last position, so it will be extremely over. This game is just going to end up with a very, very likely victory of Miss Muzychuk, as there will be no defense on how to slowly by slowly. Maybe rook g7 is coming now, and yes, simply there would be no moves. Knight g7, yes. Some tactical chances still exist, of course, if they don't play accurate, both of them, but it's very likely that it's going to be a win. Maybe rook h6 move is very strong here, so just there are no moves in the position in general. Rook h6, and what to do? I just don't see rook h6, and yeah, rook f6 check, and pawn to e6 runs to the queen. There is nothing to stop this pawn. I think the position is just over, so she will probably resign very soon. This piece up, this game is losing complete interest, I must say, because it is clear that Mariya Muzychuk will win. Mrs. Zagnitz has spoiled a bit her position. She was forced to play this move. I'm curious what will now happen, because after rook a3 move, she suddenly had to play rook b7, and to threat, of course, rook b8 check. But how clear is this position? I'm really not sure, because maybe queen takes e5 just happens, and yeah, it should be a win, of course, but it requires still some accurate play, I would say, by both sides. Rook b7, maybe rook e3 is correct move. Then has to go. Yes, it is difficult, of course. Rook e3 is maybe the only move in this position. And after rook b8 check, just to go with the bishop. Just to close with the bishop. It would be queen to f5 would take, of course, yes. The game is probably over, also over, but yes, white tries to find some resources. Maybe queen takes e5 and bishop e8. It might also happen. Should be a win. Should be a win for white, but let's wait and see. This is really complicated. I think she did complicate it herself. Mrs. Hu Yifan is also going to win, so it is going to be lots of. So after h5, bishop d5 happened. Then she did rook to c1 because she needs a rook on the first rank, otherwise e3 check was coming. And it is, yes, of course, very strong domination by black pieces. Maybe even e3 check immediately should be just enough to win. And then f4 and all the pieces would come. But there is no need for that either. One of the possible moves is, yes, e3 check looks quite good, I must say. And after king e1 or king f1, whatever it is, rook would simply come back. Rook would go back to h, or even on the second rank maybe, because h7, h6 move always fails to rook back, and then it will just recapture the pawn. Maybe this move also is not good because of this. Rook d3 and king here. So again there are no moves in the position. And then move is rook h7 and h6 pawn is falling. So it is just, yes, the question of technique, how Mrs. Hu Yifan is going to win this game. It is very logical. She did eventually play this move, check. King will come to f1 or e1. I think f1 is the most logical square. But there would be no hopes. She eventually went to e1 with the king. She went with the e1 on the king. Yes, because I think king on e1 is actually worse placed, but it's more or less the same, because it really doesn't matter so much. The position is 1. If it's 1, it is very simply 1, so it doesn't, maybe rook a7 immediately, maybe rook on the second rank, which looks also very good. It looks extremely good, so that is going to be the outcome. Or rook, yes, rook coming probably to g line, rook h7 and rook to g7. It's also winning because pawn g3 will fall and that's it. There are no moves in a position. It's eventually such a good position that there are no moves. So Miss Muzychuk won the game. She is now momentaneously leader, but Hu Yifan will win. So she will get, yes, she went to h7, a7 with the rook, and to g7 she will pick up another pawn, and that will be the end. Later we shall come back with the last finishing games. Now I leave you with the press conference of Mrs. Muzychuk and Koneru.